All right, let's see. Bring down the music just a tiny bit. Yeah, like the one base Colossus build that NACL was doing. Like anytime you're thinking about doing like a one base build, you might have a pretty cool idea. Depending on how far down the tech tree you're gonna go, it's always worth to do a dry run of it as a one base and then try to do the same thing as a two base build. Because for some things you might find out that the two base version might be like 30 seconds slower, but twice as strong, right? You want kind of want to look at like, maybe what does my army look like at 7 minutes in the game? You know, what is the opponent doing at 30 seconds earlier, right? Like, is the one base going to give me a critical timing compared to the two base? And then other things you want to think about as well is how much information are you giving the opponent? So like the problem with his one base Colossus against Zerg is that it hits so late that the Zerg has plenty of time to just make a bunch of drones, fill up two bases, plenty of time for those drones to kind of pay for themselves, and then just start pumping units. The reason why it doesn't work against Masters players is Masters players usually against one base are going to cut drones at about 36 and just nonstop make units and inject. And then if they are not able to spend their money, they're just going to pump out queens, right? They're always going to throw down that extra hatchery. So you usually go up to 3 bases is pretty good. And then even like if things kind of go south, like with that one Zerg, like that one Zerg should have saw like he has like 2,000 minerals, or at least 1,000 minerals at one point. He's like 15 out of 12 mining, so he's got 3 extra drones. He doesn't really need mining. He should have converted those drones to spine crawlers, maybe even converted a few more drones to spine crawlers, right? Just to spend those money. And if you can get those spine, like after taking out the critical tech of the Warp Prism, the Immortal, and the Colossi, like those are non-blink stalkers, right? You can, if you make like 3 and go up to a total of like 4 spine crawlers, those stalkers can't really push into that. You can guard the ramp, right? You can start going for like a Nidus Worm attack in his main base. There's a lot of stuff you can do, but mostly it's like all they really have to do is just kind of sit, wait, maybe spread a little creep, and just keep injecting and keep pumping out units, because like their economy is gonna boost their army supply much higher. And you can always tank a few shots on your hatchery. It's not a big deal, just to buy some time for your units. but but the thing with the information is like, because you're on one base for so long, the opponent is expecting an attack, so they know to prepare for an attack. Whereas like when you're doing like a 2 base all in, or you're kind of gearing up for that 2 base, like then the math becomes a little bit trickier, right? Like, is this just a slow expansion? Like, are you committing to a full 2 base all in with 8 gateways? Are you just doing like a 4 gate pressure with a delayed expansion? Like you're trying to do like some like 4 gate adept DTs, which is going to have a slower expansion, right? So the math becomes a little bit unclear, and the Zerg is like, okay, like should I cut drones and make a lot of army to survive? Because if I cut drones, make a lot of army to survive, he's 2 base all in, great. But if he's not 2 base all in, he's just kind of harassing me a little bit, and he's expanding with like DTs and adepts, I can't really kill that even if I have a large army, because I don't have an overseer or something. It's like, well, maybe or the Zerg is the one that's forced to do damage, and now they're the ones that has to get to your 3rd base before you get too much static defense up, right? So it becomes a little bit harder of a mind game for them to decide on how much they want to commit to defense. It works at the Diamond 2 and Diamond 3 levels, just because like this is reason why I made this playlist here. is like people still don't know how to macro. Like they're spending too much time doing like one base all-ins. They're spending too much time trying to do like some cute harassments or proxy hatches that they're not investing time into making sure that they're injecting properly. You know, they're not investing time in making sure that their spawning pools or, you know, third hatcheries or everything is on time, you know. Like with Zerg, it's a lot easier. Build orders are a hell of a lot easier with Zerg because you just have less buildings to make. Um, but it's harder to um, intuitively play Zerg. It's easier to intuitively play Protoss. But like with Zerg, all you need to do is just ask somebody, hey, what are my key timings? You know, like your key drone timing is like 36, 40, 44, that, and then whatever the next one after that is like 60 or something, 55, whatever. And then, you know, you just need to know what these mean. Like 36 is like I'm expecting, like I cut drones at 36 means like I'm really expecting some sort of really sharp, fast attack. You know, like this guy is doing like the fastest blink stalker all in, or he's doing like some sort of charge lot all in. He's gonna hit me super fast, and I need to be prepared for it. If he's doing like a normal timing, then 40 to 44 drones is what you usually go to, and then you start pumping out units. You know, and then, you know, like it's basically you go to 40, 44 drones, and you make nonstop units until you see a third base, right? If there's no third base, you don't stop making units. You stay on 44 drones. You know, you might go 40, pump out units, and then go to 44 and pump out units, but like you don't go past 44 units if he doesn't take a third base. As soon as he takes a third base, you know, you can use whatever army you have to pressure. You take a fourth base, you fill up your third base, right? So it's just like, you know, with Zerg, you just have to know what your key timings are, and all of that's been mapped out by the best players, right? You can easily figure out, you know, when you should cut drones, what your drone numbers are to do that. But a lot of these diamond players are like trying to reinvent the wheel. They're trying to like guess, like, you know, they make some random amount of drones, like 38, you know, and then they wonder why they lost. They barely lose. You know, it's like, oh man, this guy snowballed on me. It's like, well, you know, those two drones really should have been two roaches, right? And if you had two roaches by the time I attacked, you know, you would have been able to win the fight instead of lose the fight, because, you know, we had technically an even army supply, but I had 4 more army than you, right? Or I had, you know, a couple extra stalkers that allowed me to keep one shot in a little bit longer, and right, it may not seem like a lot, you know, but like when you're playing against somebody who is of equivalent, like equal skill to you, and then it becomes a lot more apparent that like I've lost a lot of games because I just had one less stalker than the opponent, right? I've lost games because, you know, like I got a little bit supply blocked, and my attack was like 10 seconds late, you know, and if it was 10 seconds earlier, you know, I would have hit a critical time. I could have warped in enough and attacked, you know, because it can be the difference between you attacking when his units are still like incubating in larva, you know, and you can get really close to his base. You can get on top of those larvae, maybe you might build a second good position, versus maybe 10 or 20 seconds later when those larvae popped, right? And, you know, and they're units, and now those units are making it harder for you to get into like those prime positions, right? Because you can't go up the ramp or whatever it may be, right? You cannot penetrate as far into the enemy forces because he has more forces to prevent that, you know. And it even magnifies if you're the underdog player playing against a stronger player. Like every unit, you need every roach, you need every zerg, you need every marine, every marauder to fight that uphill battle, just because, you know, they're better than you. But if you're trying to play against someone stronger, and all of a sudden you have like less army than the people he normally fights against, or she normally fights against, or they normally fight against, then it's like, well, you know, of course you're not going to win, right? Like I'll be and that's why like sometimes your strategy will work against some players and it will not work against others. You know, it's because, well, your level of optimization is strong enough to beat people who have worse optimization, and you're going to lose to people who have better optimization, right? And that level of optimization can feel like everything, And it's like, how is it that this strategy beats some Zergs and I lose almost no units, but other Zergs I lose every unit? You know, it just feels like an impossible task. You know, but it's just like comparing like that person was just that much more optimized than you, right? Like you probably could have won if your build order was like as perfect as their build order was. You know, like maybe you could have had like 5 more zealots at this point, and those 5 zealots would have buffered enough time for you to have snowballed. But so it's just those kind of things, right? But the main thing I was kind of looking at his build is like, you know, I was looking at the way he was spending money and the way he was dropping things down, his plan, his idea, the reason he was making certain things. Like that was pretty good, you know. It was very respectable, even though the build I think is probably not a good build and stuff, and this execution probably wasn't like the most optimal. It like the player did showcase that he had a plan, he had an idea. He created a path to that idea and he executed it fairly well, right? Like if I was gonna do the same build and optimize it my way, you know, it probably wouldn't hit too much, you know, faster. It'd be too different. It'd probably be different enough that, you know, I might be able to get 100 more MMR than him or something like that, right? Like I could probably one base Colossus into like Masters 2 or 1, but yeah. But a lot of it's, you know, like one base play is it just as you move the ladder, the micro requirements of a one base player is just so much higher than the macro, right? Like if you're able to get to like Masters 1 off of one base type plays, and it's not like super cheesy one base plays like proxy 4 racks every game or something, like you definitely like if you ever learn to macro, right, micro would be like the last thing you have to worry about. But it's just so much harder to climb ladder with a micro based gameplay than it is with a macro based gameplay. Like let's say I was like, if I was 7 out of 10 macro and 5 out of 10 micro, I would be higher MMR than someone who was 5 out of 10 macro and 7 out of 10 micro, right? So if you just kind of equivalently swap those two around, the macro player is going to get more mileage out of that gameplay than the micro player will. And we kind of see that I think I've kind of demonstrated that here with like this series where, you know, we pretty much got all the way into Diamond 3 before I even needed to like not aim move the opponent. You know, just I'm still pretty much aim moving the opponent, but now I'm controlling the units a little bit better. But you know, we even still had some games where we just aim moved our way to victory just because the opponent wasn't ready. So let's click that ring button. Now there are some one base all-ins that are really sharp that can be done at any level against, but the amount of them shrink really quick. Like pretty much I think like one of the only one base all-ins that technically work against Terran is probably going to be like the proxy robo. If you practice enough like printf, you can kind of do a cannon rush into like some Stargate. Proxy void ray might be able to work too. But those are some really difficult ones. But, okay, we got Terran. Okay, gotta stay focused a little bit. You know, I gotta make sure that remind myself I'm playing against diamond players, and I'm not playing against grandmaster players. What is it? We got him. Pop. He's coming home. Good. Yeah, typically the longer the season goes on, the requirements for Grandmaster typically always go up. So like the easiest way to get promoted Grandmaster is like the first week that Grandmaster comes out. Then over time, it becomes more difficult. You know, I have nothing going on. I'm building probes. My stuff isn't done, so we can take a look, see what's going on over here. You know, because the next building I'm making is the cybernetic score, and you know, I have like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, right? So that's what so this what affords me to kind of look into the opponent, is knowing that I have a an opening. Okay. In my build order. Or such a thing. So we'll be a little bit greedy. Usually I have to get that pylon out a bit quicker. We'll just go for like a slightly slower pylon. I see 2 gas. Usually a 2 gas attack doesn't just run its way across the map super fast, like a one gas attack. Maybe you could want this pylon a bit quicker, but 2 gases usually means he's gonna go for like a factory, which means like any kind of pressure is just gonna be just a tiny bit slower than what you would normally be able to, you know. Reaper is pretty quick. Either that or my stuff was pretty late. But it was probably my stalker being late. No. But I'm not worried at the diamond level, you know. Like, losing a couple probes in the early game only matter if the opponent has better macro than you. So, chances of the opponent having better macro than me is pretty slim, but not impossible. There could be people who have really, really good macro at this level, and there could just be like something else just holding them back. So, which will be more likely the higher we move up the ladder. There will start encountering people with just a lot better micro skill, or a lot better macro skill, and like their micro is just terrible. You know, like they'll make a big army, then they'll just move it into a blender. Then you'll have other people who have like this really bad macro, but just have really good micro. So, well, yeah, usually I like to make an early second gateway to be able to warp into sentries, but right now, you know, my build order isn't optimal, but it's only not optimal in the sense of being prepared for early game aggression. It's still pretty optimal as far as our attack, because our entire attack timing revolves around this rubble facility. As long as we keep getting our units out of here in time, not getting supply blocked on that thing, and keep, you know, these chronos, then everything else technically can be a little bit late. And everything else being a little bit late, all it does is it adds a weakness in which, you know, the opponent could timing attack us. So if he was a little aggressive early on, that would have been the punishment. So he's doing a siege tank, so we want to build a backup pylon and another shield battery, right? And we'll hit this chrono so we can get our zealot. So we want charge to break this. This is probably a 1 base all in too. Now this is a high level cute strategy. We're not gonna get that, and that is to like maybe warp in some hold position over here. Come from the back side. I'm just gonna walk around here. Hit this. This is one of the advantages of a 2 base all-in against a 1 base all-in. Right? And this is why kind of 1 base all-ins kind of fall out of fashion. Because surprisingly, 2 base all-ins do lose to 1 base all-ins. Just because, you know, it's just kind of so easy to get my macro up. I just need to, like, your 1 base all-in needs to be fast as heck, right? You need to hit this as fast as possible. So here's one strategy I was kind of recommending to you, Sinister. It would be to like pick up a couple immortals, right? And then drop them like this while attacking somewhere else. You know, this can help you like break in to break into their base and maybe even like attack them from the high ground. Especially against tanks in the high ground. Because 2 immortals with zealots, like this is the majority of your strength over here. And we can kind of hit 2 areas at once. So that's kind of what I was, that advice I gave you like a few days ago. So we got our first win of the day. The win. Was that a 1 base? He did have, it was like some sort of, I want to say it was probably like a delayed expo rush. Because with that attack timing, he had to go like probably Eric's factory expand. But I haven't played StarCraft in a while, so maybe like my intuition on timings might be very slow. Or might be off like quite a bit, so it could be passable. He went Barracks Reaper expand, but then maybe he could have cut workers and gone into a factory. Might have just gone factory expand. So let me check. I didn't play that too well, did I? 114 APM is fine. He had less time supply cap, so he, you know, he had less unspent resources, right? So more workers created and higher APM. So across these statistics, he's outplayed me. Right? He had better spendage of money. He had better building of supply depots. He made more workers and he had more APM, right? So if we look at the graph, he even had more army supply for us, but you know, because we're 2 base all in, you know, like our army supply wasn't that far behind. And then once our production kicked in, like our 8 gateways, you see like this is the 8 gateways coming online. This is like we just go boom, boom, just fly up there. Our resource collection versus him was pretty much, you know, even. And then he dropped a couple mules. He probably should have dropped these a little bit earlier, but he dropped, this is at least two or three mules getting dropped, and then everything dies. So road to Diamond 1 today. $64 wins, 11 losses. I'll have to say, like, 11 losses is a little bit higher than I was thinking, but we really still haven't hit an area in our games where we've lost a lot in a row. Like, we lost a couple here, we lost a couple there. Technically, we still don't know how to beat any of these people if they ever, you know, did the same strategy again, right? And all these people that we lost against, these were like pretty good losses, right? Like, if you go back and watch these games, you know, like the way, like how badly we lost most of those, it'd be easy to think like, how could this strategy ever win? Like, all the person has to do is play like that every time, and I'll lose 100% of the time. Well, can they play like that every time? Like, is everyone I'm playing against gonna play like that every time? And clearly the answer is no. All right, I'm 64 wins, 11 losses. You know, And I'm pretty sure, you know, if I play those guys the same way you know, every game, and they played the exact same way they played every game, 100% I lose every game. But I think, like, take any one of those guys, give me a best of 5, I probably wouldn't lose all 5 games. Because, not because, you know, I'm better than them or worse than them. Because I think, like, my build order is easy to do, right? And I don't know if they have the same level of consistency in their build order, you know? So in any of those 5 games, you know, if they're laid on an overlord, or, you know, they make a mistake, that mistake could be the reason they lost. And that's the main power of a sharp build order, you know? If my build order is sharp, and I can control it just okay, like, they might just lose, you know, just because they don't have enough stuff. All right, this guy is just a drone scout, you know. So I'm making a couple extra probes and delaying my next side, just because I wanted to be extra certain that this wasn't anything more than just a drone scout. Because he's already sacrificed economy to come down here and be a nuisance, right? Like, this drone is not mining stuff, so I can be a little bit slow. Right? We can just be a little bit slow. Make sure everybody looking good. Anytime your nexus is slower than normal, you're gonna need to make like an extra pylon. Usually pretty quick, but we might actually be okay. You know, I don't think I'm producing units that fast. We're always gonna go for the safety shield battery before we drop our tech. When the opponents get better, where I need to hit like a faster attack timing, then we'll delay the shield battery, drop our tech, and then drop the shield battery. But, you know, at the lower levels, you know, it's harder for people to defend cheese and rushes than it is for people to execute cheese and rushes. So we're just gonna, you know, have a slightly slower attack timing, just so that we can have a little bit more safer opening, right? And we can always swap these around as our opponents get better, right? You know, I give that big long speech about how important is your timings are, right? Swapping these around doesn't really change our timings a whole lot, but it does change them a little bit. And, you know, like I said, like, as long we still have a pretty solid build order, we still can practice having a really solid build order, because this is still a pretty good build order, right? We're just opting to be a little bit safer against stuff like this, right? Just a little bit safer, right? So whenever you see like this kind of attack, like I said, you want to be thinking shield battery and extra pylon here. Then we can hit this overcharge here. Well, you know, we don't want to waste the overcharge, so we'll heal this up over here. Right? Am I? Okay, good. Accidentally made too many whatchamacallits, too many probes. A little bit distracted by these guys, but it's alright. We can take a gas. So we got want to warp in a couple sentries. There's safety sentries as well, but you know, we want that. Now I'm not going to chrono boost this because I need this. I'm not going to be able to get that out. Actually, I probably can. We'll sacrifice a probe. This will allow us to get this out. So that's worth it, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we got our attack here. Oh, he has a lot of lings on the map, so we will delay our attack time in a little bit, which is completely fine because those lings are not drones, right? We'll leave 2 adepts behind. Now we'll leave 3 adepts behind because he might want to. Alright, well, we'll make 5 pylons. We'll make our 3 and our 2 because I'm a little bit late there. It's busy trying to think. We just don't want our army to get swarmed by lings, so we want to make sure we have enough defense to be able to move out on the map. So we warp in these guys. We'll start moving across the map together. Maybe we'll attack from this direction. See, he's gonna come in for this thing. Alright. Everything's looking all Gucci. Now he has a lot of lings, so we're gonna make a couple Archons. Where are these guys? That was a little bit dangerous. Archons will give us a good amount of defense against the lings, and in case he was going for like mutas, it'll give us some strength against the mutas as well. Now we can send our observer out to get a little bit of a peek. Like, our economy is way stronger than his, so I'm not trying to like get in his base too quickly. I can make more army than he can make, and my army is stronger than what he was making. He's got Hydras. Well, yeah, this may or may not work for him. We'll find out. Maybe we'll try to trap some. And it looks like Hydras don't do too well against what we made. We'll try to keep our army together. Realistically, the only true hard counter to our strategy that Zerg can do would be like a muta play. That'd be the only like real technical hard counter. Just because we don't make a lot of stuff that shoot up. And typically anytime I open up a robo, I'm always afraid of mutas. This was like heavy lean pressure, we'll call that one. And you know, when we go to see, like, he made a lot of lings. They're not drones. So if you go to this graph, like, you know, once our production finishes, we're able to make so much army because we have so much more minerals being mined than him. Look at this gap here, and I'm spending that money, right? I was a little supply black, but you know, like, you know, we have so many more workers spent active because, like I said, those lings are not workers, right? And then here he kind of like panic makes, you know, a bunch of workers. You know, he just goes up and makes like 20 workers at once, you know. But by then it's too late. You know, we're already marching our way across the way. So but I would definitely encourage you to maybe do an Excel sheet or keep track of your wins and losses, what you're playing against. If you use more than one strategy, you know, see what your win rates are with certain strategies. You know, see what your win rates with certain strategies are on certain maps. That might help you to choose what you want to do. Like, you know, let's say you do cannon rushes from time to time. You find out that you pretty much always, you know, you have a 20% win rate when anytime you cannon rush on this map. Also, you just stop cannon rushing on that map. Also, your win rate just goes right up, right? You start cannon rushing on maps you have a higher win chance on, you know. Maybe you stop, you know, one base on linear on certain maps because it just ain't working. And depending on how often you play these maps, it can be pretty hard to determine if the map you're playing, is really bad for that strategy. If you don't, use it on that map a lot, right? Let's say I use it on a map. Let's say there's a strategy I use like on this map, and I lose 100% of the time, but I only use that strategy like 1 out of 5 times I play this game. Um, so I lose 20% of the time. Um, I may never really ever you know correlate that strategy to this map. I just might be like, well, I just lose this map sometimes. But then when you have like an Excel sheet or whatever, and you're tracking like your strategies to like how well you're doing, like how your strategies are performing on certain maps, it becomes a lot more obvious that wow, this strategy is actually either really terrible on this map, or I'm really terrible at executing the strategy on the map. And also, you just cut that strategy out of what you're doing, and your win percent goes up at least a little bit, right? You might not get a full 20% win rate out of it, but you know you might get like a 10% win rate, right? Because you might still have a 50% chance of losing with other strategies, whatever it may be. But that extra win percentage can be what sets you higher up on the ladder. So I guess plan's a little slow because so this usually happens because you make the I made the probe before I made the pylon, so it usually delays this. On a lot of maps it doesn't matter. Um, Also depends on like how fast they get this Reaper across the map, but yeah, just because this is supply blocked a little bit, as long as you know why. It's like we traded a little bit of a supply block for a little bit more probes, right? Yeah. So if you know why you had a supply block, and you chose to have that supply block, right? Then like, is that really a mistake, right? I'd say it is a mistake on maps where you probably should have got the stalker a little bit faster. It's probably not a mistake on maps that have a longer rush distance, where it doesn't really quite matter if you got that stalker out faster. In fact, you can, when you get up higher, right? Right now it doesn't matter at this level, right? So then you guys be worrying about it. But as you get into like Masters 1, maybe you start to worry about, like getting this extra pro a little bit faster is probably more important. But like I said, like these kind of like splitting here, making sure you're not triple mining, all this stuff, only really matters when you're playing against players who are playing at a similar level of optimization in their build orders as you. You know, where like every little bit is important. So. Yeah. 420 is when I would expect the Widow Mine drop. And if you do the same builder enough, you can say like, well, when I go to put my extra 2 gateways down, that's around the time I would expect the Widow Mine drop, right? Or after I make this. Um, you can start using like your build order to help remind you of the clock. Like, has anyone done a Widow Mine drop against me yet? Oh, there's one guy. There's one guy. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, we've only ran into like one parent that played anything remotely close to your traditional standard um, um, your traditionally standard PVT, right? Stuff that you would see like in the GSL. At least he certainly didn't. Oh yeah, we got a Widow Mine drop right here. Nice. This is like a 1 minute late Widow Mine drop. That's fine. Yeah, make some more probes. He only killed. I got 4 probes. I only killed 4. It's not too bad. And attack. No, he didn't even know we're coming because he didn't even burrow. These Widow Mine shots gonna be not friendly for him too. He probably needed to pre-burrow some of those Widow Mines to have a chance. But good on him, you know, this guy actually, even though his build order was not great because he was 1 minute late on the Widow Mine drop, unless he purposely chose to delay it, right? You just have to ask right there. You could have purposely chose to delay it. But yeah. The advantage of the 420 Widow Mine drop is, you know, if it gets in there early enough, it will delay the attack, right? I might not be able to attack with 8 gateways. I might have to attack with 6 gateways because I lost too much economy. I might have to delay my gateways in order to defend the Widow Mine drop, right? Like that Widow Mine drop doesn't just like have the potential to massively cripple the economy. It has a chance of like making you mess up your build order, right? Because now, you know, like at the time I want to drop more gateways. He's in my base, you know, wrecking probes. I might, you know, split my stuff into 2 different areas, right? But one thing against like the Widow Mine drop is at like some point you can't sit in your base forever. Right? Like you're doing a 2 base all in, so as soon as you got those gateways down, at some point you guys say like, okay, probes, you guys are on your own. I need to get across the map and kill this guy, right? Some of you guys might die for the process, but we'll make like some plaques in your honor, right? We'll send your extras, your remains to your families, right? But we gotta go kill this guy. Yeah, so don't over defend the Widow Mine drops. You can make a couple stalkers to sit at home if you want, but you gotta get across that map. You gotta go and kill them. And if you don't kill them, good job. You did a great job, right? Go into the next one. Like just because one player on one day was able to defend you, doesn't mean that same player can do it again in the next game. It doesn't mean the next Terran's gonna be able to do it, right? Like before you change anything in what you're doing, unless you're changing it to be better, like more optimized, hit faster timings, you know, better micro. No, don't change anything in your strategy until you like lose. I want to say like at least lose 5 games in like a row almost, you know. Lose like 5 games in a row to the same thing. And then you can look at those replays and look at like, well, what could you have done better? Could you have hit faster, you know? Could you have played safer? Like maybe you should just abandon the strategy, right? Like opening up this way instead of dropping the 8 gateways, you know? Like maybe I go 2 gateways of forage, I drop a cannon or something, or you know, maybe I just go up to like 4 gateways robo and take an expansion, and I just kind of sit in my base defending the Widow Mine drops or something, right? Maybe you notice it's the same player that's always holding your stuff, and it's only this guy. Maybe against just that guy you play differently, right? And if no, so yeah, so don't just give up and lose confidence just because you had 1 or 2 bad games. Even if you felt like you played perfect and you got your ass handed to you, it's still not a good reason to lose faith, lose confidence, and give up. So win versus, you know, I will say just this is probably just standard, you know, macro Widowmine, right? I feel like there's nothing special, nothing interesting, or how to say it without sounding like you're being insulting, right? They're just playing a normal game with nothing out of the normal. Yeah, there's nothing out of the normal with this build. And he was playing a more heavy Widowmine style, which is, I would say, a better style to play against charge slots, right? I think the Bio Widowmine is pretty good against charge slots. So I think he was even doing probably the right build. But he definitely needed to have those Widowmines brought as rep. Like if you're a Terran player and you're not like leaving your base, those Widowmines need to be always burrowed somewhere. Either burrowed protecting against oracles, burrowed at your ramp. You know, don't take for granted that people just don't attack you, right? That's building bad habits, because all of a sudden, like, someone's gonna walk up that ramp, your Widowmines are gonna be out, and I'm just gonna slap them, right? So it's like, you know, I don't have to be making the shield battery every game, right? Like, I don't think I have to make the shield battery any game, right? You know, like, there's probably like 1 or 2 games out of like the last 60 games that I played in which I needed that shield battery versus Terran. You know, so we still could have had an incredible win rate, even dropping those games, right? You know, this was like free win. I already got one. So typically I would recommend, like, if you do these kind of analytics, just go ahead and like overwrite it, right? The free win ones, because like, do I really need to count my free wins, right? Probably not. I'm never gonna watch these 3-second replays, so no need to really keep them up. Rank 1, man, we're rank 1. Yeah, like 2 games. Probably just 2 games. That was probably the hardest game we fought all day. Was it like mental damage? Yeah. Bombardier, random. I feel like we played him before. I wonder if any of these guys have profile checked me. I would imagine not, because they haven't like whispered me anything angry. They haven't like said anything in game that's pretty angry. So I think, you know, by keeping my APM pretty low, keeping my gameplay pretty basic, I think we're doing a pretty good job at making people think we're not smurfing. So, and that's, I count that as a success. If the majority of people I'm playing against don't think I'm a smurf, you know, like, yeah, this seems about right. We're doing a great job. So. I'm still waiting for my. I'm still waiting for my Cybernetic score to be ready. So this guy's been gas stolen before. He doesn't want to get gas stolen again. Typically, I think the gas steal against Terran is only really good if you know they're a mech player, or if you're doing like a proxy like Robo or proxy Stargate, because it becomes a lot harder to defend the any kind of like one base play from Protoss when you don't have gas. I would even go so far as to say that like the one base classes against Zerg, like any kind of one base against Zerg, now a gas steal would probably help it with that as well. So this is late enough that a Reaper could probably kill 1 or 2 probes if his Reaper is on time. We're gonna hide our probes here. If he comes this way, he can probably get 2 probes. He comes this way, 1 probe, but it looks like he's gonna get 0 probes. It could be a marine opener. Nope, definitely not a marine opener. This is why we do this. Oh no, he's skirted through. That's not supposed to happen. But yeah, I was kind of hoping to show you that trick. I guess we didn't have that area well enough. But usually, you know, if he comes in this way and starts going this way, you just bring a little probe block, and then that Reaper is as good as dead. I like to build these kind of more off to the side, because if he does siege tank it, it's a little bit harder to siege tank this down. And then this pylon is pretty good because it covers this, and then we can build a backup shield battery here and a pylon here to cover that shield battery if he does try to do some pretty crazy attack.
Research complete.
He was random. I still opened up as if he was Terran. I don't know. I don't know. I think it just felt like a Terran. But we'll chalk that up to like the 6th sense. I'm over here thinking like he was random. Like, why did I open up like he was Terran? I think it's probably just because his name is like Bombardier, and it just sounds like a Terran player name. And we just kind of lucked out because like open up like this if he was Zerg. It's not an auto loss, but it definitely is not a fun time. Open like this, believe it or not, is a little bit safer, or is pretty safe. I mean, against 12 wool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, we don't want 2 of these guys. Our 3 pylons. Get our 1 dude over here. So the question is, did he remembered? Did he remembered?
Research complete.
That was a pretty good scan. Guess we want to put this up here. Wow. So this is probably a 3 racks that we accidentally walked ourselves into. Which is pretty good. Yeah, we lost 1 immortal. Maybe I'll remake it. Yeah, his little brother.
Your warriors have engaged the enemy.
We'll send the observer and take a little peek. at how he might be wanting to attempt a defense. It doesn't really look like a whole lot of stuff over here. So it looks like we probably could just go straight up the front door. Oh, he went for a fast CC, that's why he doesn't have any army. Okay, well. This is... we'll just go and put this Warp Prism in his base. So. We gotta be careful not to lose the Warp Prism, but... Oh, he got it. Alright, well... we'll make another one. Everything is pretty chaotic here. Now, next game is the promo game. Rename was a PBT win 3 Rex. That's third. I will admit that 3 Rex surprised me. I was not expecting to walk out of my base into a 3 Rex of stuff, but traditionally he should. I think his army supply was a little bit lower than what it should have been for a 3 Rex. I think you usually have like 3 more Marines or something. I feel like, you know, you probably could have optimized this a little bit better. Now, usually what I've seen people do when they 3 Rex is like the biggest point of the 3 Rex is to kill a 3rd base from Protoss. Is to punish and kill that 3rd base. Yeah, 3 Rex is still pretty popular. But if you're the Terran player and you open up 3 Rex, you need to, what I recommend is if you don't scout a 3rd base, don't attack. Just keep building up your army, you know, go up to like, you know, your starport or 3rd base or whatever your plan is after 3 Rex. Wait for the Protoss to throw down a 3rd base nexus and then go across the map to attack. You know, just because, you know, if I'm doing a 2 base all in, I want you to 3 Rex, right? Like 2 base all in is really strong against the 3 Rex, specifically because you don't have tanks to defend. Alright, so I used to do 1 base 3 Rex all ins back in 2010, good times. Same for the 4 gate. I never really was a big 4 gate player. Like before Legacy of the Void, I often didn't cheese a lot because a lot of people are just so angry about cheeses and cannon rushes. So I just like, okay, well, I won't cannon rush, you know. Like I think I've cannon rushed, like if I played 30,000 games, I probably cannon rushed 100 times, right? So I'm like, my cannon rush percent is really low. My 4 gate percentage pre Legacy of the Void is really low. Even in Legacy of the Void, it's really low. Yeah. Now I could have been a better player if I did cheese a little bit, right? I think held back some of my success. But so this is another Terran. You know, I think cheeses are good. Everyone should learn cheese, and you should mix it into your gameplay. But I don't think cheese is anything you should start learning until, we'll say like until like Masters 3, 2, 1, something like that. Like you really need to make sure your build orders are crisp. And it's even more important for cheese players to make sure your timings are perfect, right? Because like you want to hit it the fastest possible. Like the faster you get across the map, the faster you can hit the opponent, the faster you can do anything in a cheese, the stronger that cheese is. It's all about speed. Like if I'm cheesing somebody, I'm building stuff in base, I want my gateways to be like here, right? You know, if I'm going to send zealots across the map, I want these zealots to basically spawn as close to the opponent as possible. Building, positioning, every positioning. So one nice trick I like to do is this guy rallies to the natural. I'll start showing you guys this. And then this guy can come here. Then this guy is, you know, automatically, you know, here in time to make the nexus. So, and then we'll skip that one probe to make this guy so we don't get supply block. Then we can make this, you know. So we won't. So in this situation, where we go pylon then gas, we'll have a little bit less gas, you know, but we'll have a little bit more, but we won't get supply blocked here. This ordering is important for certain builds. Like if you're gonna do like blink stalkers or something, like you might want to get this gas a little bit sooner. We'll just hide these probes in their main base, right? If you're playing, you know, if you're struggling against Reapers, you might want to get slower. Just get these stalkers out a bit quicker. I probably should have made that shield battery faster, just in case he was doing like a proxy something. But you know. Go ahead and make Robo. Go ahead and make our Twilight. We're a pretty low gas build, so getting this second gas out isn't the most important thing. And we're not using like, we're not trying to use blink stalkers to defend against the 420 middle line drop, so we don't need the fastest possible Twilight, you know. So also, you know, so that's one way you can kind of tell like what ordering of certain things you can get away with. Like, should I make the pylon first or should I make this first? It's like, what is the timing you're trying to hit? You know, what are the key moments? Like my timing, 100% is dependent on this robo. Everything else just needs to be finished by the time I get across the map. You know, so that means like technically this could be a little bit later if I wanted, right? Everything doesn't need to be, you know, too perfect. But this, you know, I cannot attack until I have 2 Immortals of Warp Prism, right? So everything needs to revolve around this being finished. Right, as long as everything is done by the time I get like here or something, right? Then we're good. It being done earlier is nicer, but anything being done earlier than attack timing is more of like a defensive advantage, right? So we got 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. Right, so faster charge finishes, the safer I'll be in like defending an attack from the opponent. So delaying things will make me a little weaker in defense. You know, it gives me a little bit more flexibility in offense or whatever. That's another 3 racks. You know, it's pretty much 3 racks all night. That's what we're fighting against. So I guess 3 racks is, so the idea of how you play against 3 racks with this build is the same as like Masslings, right? He has a large army supply pretty early on. So what we're trying to do is just make sure that our army supply, which will grow faster than his, right? Because we have 8 gateways to his 3 racks, that our army supply is big enough to not get swarmed, right? We don't want to lose these powerful Immortals. We send the observer out first just to see his army, you know, it's not necessarily here waiting. We want to make sure that our Warp Prism is on a separate hotkey and it's very protected. The Warp Prism is the most important unit for our attack. And so far this guy's played pretty correct, right? So he's got a good wall off, so my Zells can't get good surface area. Um, you know, like he didn't overcommit and lose his units. So what we're gonna do is try to pull him out of position. Like this is probably his whole army. So we see this over here. So he also going for a fast expansion. So we're probably gonna have to remake this. Oh, we finished it. We can probably just hit this with that. We'll remake this guy. So that probably wasn't the greatest War Prism drop in my life, but you know. Yeah, we'll bring these guys back. I need to get some high ground vision. So I'll bring this up. He's doing a pretty good job hold positioning these guys, right? So he's defending pretty well. But we have pretty good production. So we might actually, you know, do this little chrono boost because we have a good opportunity. And we'll just take let's casually wait. So we see he has this on the high ground, right? So we'll bring a couple of these guys. And we'll go on 1A here. We'll just kind of drop these guys here. Well, maybe not. And we'll come back here. Not even looking at my army. Can we get this off? Probably not. It's a little bit too greedy, I guess. We'll make another War Prism. Damn. I have a ton of money, so we'll just go ahead and expand. Make a bunch more. So he's holding pretty well. So what can we transition into? Transition to more of the same, guys. We've definitely hurt his economy quite a bit. We'll have this here. Maybe I'll get like another immortal. Put some guys on gas here. This guy on gas here. Make some more Archons. They're pretty cool units. Make some more. Use more of these. The Immortals are going to be really helpful in busting this guy because of that nice DPS. So we'll wait until we have at least one Immortal before. It might be tempting to attack. Yeah. I wouldn't be too sad if we lost this one. We can go ahead and make a second Robo. I think it's probably easier to go on the Colossus tech. Alright, he's got an army here. So looks like he's gonna try to want to defend over here. We have a drop. And we just warped in. That's not great. We'll just send these guys here. Alright, cool. We'll go and attack here. Damn. Oh, just crush that attack, right? Make some more workers. Start refilling these, get losses range, we want that eventually. Right, we have some army coming. Right, just collect my stuff. We got, now hopefully, you know, we practice not looking at our army with this 1A strategy that allows us to make sure our macro at home looks pretty good. You know? I was kind of debating if I wanted to warp in more units or not. I think we've done enough damage, right? Let's go home a little bit. Make a couple colossi. I'm not even really trying too hard with making probes, right? Some light probe micro, or light probe macro. Yeah. He's all huddled up in his base, so maybe I'll put my army here at the third base. Like, realistically, his only chance to like kind of come back would be to attack me. You know? So maybe I'll make some defensive units here. Maybe I'll make like a shield battery for them. Maybe make like a backup pylon. You know, of course, here he is coming to attack, like we predicted. You know, good game. So hopefully that still looked pretty doable, right? Oh, Diamond 1, guys. Dreams have come true. It's all I ever wanted in life was to be a Diamond 1. Excuse me. Who is this guy? Oh, he's a Diamond 1 guy too, but with Diamond 2 MMR. Lower APM, that's what I like to see. 2 Marines, such a dangerous trap. He had more than 2 Marines, but we sent our army to the third base. He dropped, and I think he probably just like shift queued it or whatever, but he dropped, and our zealots got on top of his. I think he had like a marauder, a couple Marines that died, and then he picked up the 2 Marines and went to our natural. EBT, 3 racks. It's third, right? Same thing as the last guy did. Now, in this game, right, the most important key things that I did was, you know, I had like he dropped me, you know, I just sent my army and I moved my army, then I went to look at my base, right? I didn't even look at my army. And then, you know, I tried to warp in. I didn't have enough to warp in, so I just took my probes. I went to my third base. You know, I had checked out my army, you know, because I knew I had to wait a little bit for my warp gates to get off, but then I went back and I warped in to defend the drop, right? Now, you might think to yourself, like, well, what if he obliterates my army? Well, you know, if he was able to obliterate my army, then I'd just leave the game. I was like, good job, man. You survived the initial attack, you survived my second attack, right? Sometimes you just have to say, you know, good job, opponent, you win. Because, you know, it is more important for me to make sure I have strong fundamentals than it is for me to win every single game. And the fundamentals that we're trying to work on is good build orders, right? Build, not getting supply blocked, keep building probes, cutting probes at a certain amount, making sure we have enough production, making sure we warp in enough, making sure we don't watch our army too much, right? We can watch a little bit, micro a little bit, making sure we have enough pylons while we're attacking, like 3 then 2 or 3 then 3, right? If he's not killing a lot, make sure we warp in some more pylons. We don't want to give up opportunities and allow the opponent to get into a better position because we're too afraid to A-move our army, and then because like, okay, well, I can't attack right now because I need to watch, I need to babysit my army, so I'm gonna take this moment, I'm gonna sit the army there, not gonna do anything. I'm gonna go to my I'm gonna go to my base, I'm gonna make 3 pylons, I'm gonna come back to my army, and then I'm gonna attack. Right, that whole process could take 10 seconds, right? those 10 seconds can be the difference between your army just obliterating him and then or him being able to have like one or two extra tanks, right? He might have extra tank, his tank might get into a good position, you know, he might, you know, just has started building supply depots, now they're finished or something, right? Like you're giving them 10 seconds more to prepare. Um, and if they're super prepared for you, you know, you just got to be willing to say, hey, you know, man, you got me. Um, and don't make the call like saying where you're saying like, oh no, I lost, like in that game I lost my warp prism, right? I don't really think I got the value I was kind of hoping for with the 2 immortal warp prism drop, right? So I'm just like, you know, we try to do what we can. We pulled out, we remade the warp prism, we kept making units, we tried again, we remade the warp prism, you know, we took a third base, we kept making units, we added on some probes, you know, like I'm already oversaturated, so I don't need to make too many probes. I sent some over, right? We kept making more army, and then, you know, we attacked them again, you know, so we just they stayed calm, collected, and at any point, you know, like he's doing a good job. If he does, you know, someone deserves to win that game. It can't always be me, it can't always be you. Sometimes they deserve to win the game. And you have to be willing to accept that. It's everyone that said that sometimes your opponent deserves to win the game. Bombardier. As much as we want to get into, like, you know, Master League, Grandmaster League, whatever it may be, sometimes you just gotta say, you know, the opponent did a good job. I still have plenty of things to work on. Plenty of things to work on. Oh no, what's wrong with my... There you go. Somehow I got tabbed out and I couldn't side scroll. Against random, always scout after pylon, so that we can make critical decisions as soon as possible. Bombardier is back for revenge. You know, I kind of hope he wins this one. Feel bad taking all his points. One thing that is nice though is, you know, up until this point, I don't know what that was. It could be a probe or a drone, or not an SCV. Looks like a probe. Looks like 2-gate forge. Ooh, we got in. Maybe not 2-gate, yeah, possibly 2-gate forge. So we want to make this. It's 3 probes to a cannon. So like one of the most important things, one of the most important habits, like I said, I think I said last couple of streams, is anytime you're against some sort of like really fast aggression, whether it be cannon rush, 12 pool, proxy rex, or whatever, you need to have the habit of just making, like instantly, just, you know, just make an extra pylon, and preferably have that pylon cover a gateway or something, right? Like that's what I did, you know, because then when my gateway finishes, I can keep making probes, I can make a zealot, right? I won't get supply blocked. The other important thing is if you can, you know, besides making that extra pylon, is to also make shield batteries. Like get in the habit, you know, make 1, 2, 3 shield batteries. Like, if you are ahead of the opponent in macro, right? Like if I'm on 2 base, he's on 1 base or something like that in PvP, you want to make 3 shield batteries. Okay, you want to get like a healthy amount. You might even want to build like an extra shield battery in the main. So Like it took me a long time to get comfortable with the fact that it was more important to make shield batteries than it was to make units. And it sounds like a lot of counterintuitive, but it's like okay, like I can't afford to make shield batteries because I'm warping in units. I got 4 gateways, right? And um, like skipping like 2 stalkers to make 2 shield batteries and then making the stalkers later is just so much more powerful than making those 2 stalkers without the 2 shield batteries. It's just incredibly so much more powerful for defense. Not just because you have the super shield battery. This is like, before the super shield battery. It was still just um, incredibly important. UPT in cannon rush. There's a temporary problem with my request. Okay. There's gonna be almost I would have to mess up pretty bad. I'd say there's probably like a 1% chance that I lose to a cannon rush. Between now and the end of this playlist. By the way, if you like the music, it's Lo-Fi Girl. She does, and they do copyright free live streaming and stuff. So, and they sponsor a lot of stuff. Like Lo-Fi Girl makes a decent amount of money. They sponsored like chess, and there was like a chess event sponsored by Lo-Fi Girl where it had like top chess players like Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru and those guys. So that's one reason I started listening to and supporting the Lo-Fi Girl channels, because they kind of give back to some of the communities that I support. Yeah, maybe I'll go back in the description and put a link to Lo-Fi Girl in the descriptions. I really would prefer to always play against a different opponent during this kind of speed run, because I already feel bad enough that I'm kind of like smurfing a little bit or a lot of bit through this. Like I'm trying to hold back, but I'm basically smurfing through here. So it's gonna be a lot of unhappy people. I'm just adding to the total amount of unhappiness in StarCraft 2. So the reason I prefer to click on this mineral patch, or these mineral patches, instead of the main base mineral patches, is because I know that by the time that probe gets back here from previous games that we've played in this playlist, that I'm gonna have 16 out of 16 here, I'm gonna have 3 and 3 here, so it's just gonna be a 17 probe, it's gonna be a 4th probe here, right? It's just this probe is not gonna make it back in time for it to be useful. And I don't want to think that I have 3 here when I actually have 2, and the third one is like walking back, right? I can always, like, when he comes back into the base, I can always just reassign them, right? And we always go up to 3 gas. You can do less, but the 3 gas is what's going to allow you to get tech down faster, right? So less than 3 gas is a little bit more macro. More than 3 gas is going to be a little bit more tech. Same thing with this pylon. I mean, right now it's a little bit more macro defensive, whereas going for gas before that pylon is a little bit more like you could say maybe macro offensive or macro tech. But like I said, we're not aiming to defend a 420 medevac drop, so we don't need the fastest and most possible gas in the world to get our Twilight and Blink as fast as possible. And so far, I played a lot of Terrans, and I can count the number of times I've been Widowmine dropped on one. I keep getting this late. I keep making that shield battery late. We should probably make it a little bit more forward. Yeah. I gotta stop making that shield battery late. One of these days, somebody is gonna punish me. And we're gonna have like 3 Marauders show up, and I'll be like, well, this was on me. Okay. And it's what some like the lower players don't really get. It's like you probably could have defended that if you had just built your shield battery on time, right? You probably wouldn't have died here. And you probably die 100% to certain types of builds because, you know, that shield battery is just not on time, right? And it may not seem like a big deal to you. And you might not think, like, how can, like, 1 Stalker, 1 shield battery hold off against, like, 3 Marauders? It's like, it does. Right? It buys you time to get more units, you know, it does defend. A little bit more powerfully than you might give it credit for. Even though the Reaper will be on the Reaper timing, you know, we can keep it. We can keep this Stalker here, mostly because, you know, we're producing Immortals. You know, so we do have a decent amount of firepower at the front. We're not too hard pressed. So we have our 2 sentries. I feel like 2 sentries is like the perfect number for this type of all-in, you know, because it does allow us to go into these Archons, which are pretty good. Always want to have a pylon like here, so that way we can warp in and build shield batteries and all that stuff. Right? If we made more sentries, this would probably be late, you know, but you can always and maybe I kind of like I'm starting to like the idea of delaying this observer purely for getting this a little bit faster, even though we probably won't use it when it finishes. It just kind of feels nice to have that option a bit quicker. Right. We'll take a little pause here to do a little bit of a warp in. Is this like just mass marines? What the hell? So the strongest thing in the world against mass marines are going to be sentries. Right. Like this thing gives you like 2 armor. That's like 2 less damage per shot. Marines, they don't do a lot of damage per shot, but they do a lot of shots. Like this is like it's like 20% less damage. It means he basically has effectively 20% less marines. Every 5 marines are as affected as like 4 marines. It's wild. We'll send our observer in first, you know, and you know we have really strong production, right? Probably more production than he does. So I'm in no huge, you know, I'm not feeling any pressure to have to like really attack him. Alright, well he killed that, so we'll just make another one. Now, watch out here, so it was mass marine into fast expansion with this late factory. That's pretty wild. Yeah, you're not leaving. I may have wanted him to leave, but yeah. Hashtag a little bit of regretting that decision. Probably should have used a little bit more force fields in that attack. It's almost like, oh, he's almost held. He's almost held. So it may not have looked like it, but we almost held, right? We almost lost. Like, it was not as one-sided as it looked. Because if he could have cleaned up those that last immortal, I might not have been able to overwhelm him. Win against Ass, Marine, Fast. This is a pretty cute strategy, and I think it's pretty. It probably is pretty good against a lot of Protosses because, like, you can keep making lots of Marines and get stim and stuff by skipping like Marauders, and you can go into like a because Marines are really cheap. You can kind of go into like a stronger expansion, and you can still show up across the map. And if they have just like stalkers, your stim Marines just destroy them. Obviously, the hard counter to his build is if you're going for like a fast Colossus, which is also a pretty strong build, right? The fast Colossus attack would have been, besides this build, fast Colossus would have been another build that I would have recommended learning. Like I could have easily done the same speed run, probably with the same amount of skill, maybe a little easier. I know by doing like the 2 base fast Colossus push. The attack timing is slower, so it does hit slower, which is the only downside. A slower attack timing allows opponents to kind of compensate for some early game mistakes. Like the difference between me and a Diamond 1 Protoss is if I fall behind in macro, I know how to spend my money. Right? I'll drop extra gateways, I'll drop extra pylons, I'll chrono boost my gateways. Right? It's like your Diamond 1 Protosses might not make extra gateways, probably not gonna make, they'll probably just make extra pylons, but they might not make extra gateways. They might not chrono boost their gateways, right? They might chrono boost their gateways while they're still supply blocked. Like I'll probably, to spend my money, I'll throw down Nexi and different. I'll start taking I'll double expand if I have to. Not because I think I can hold them. It's just because I need to spend my money, and if I can hold them, great, right? If I can't hold them, then I'm pretty much lost anyway if I have that much money, right? So the only way for me to come back is to not only spend my money, but spend it in kind of an aggressive way. So that's why like higher level players, as you go up the ladder, are able to afford more mistakes or the same types of mistakes, just because we kind of know, or we start developing, ways to spend that money. So hopefully this guy doesn't hate me, but I feel like I want to just start free winning people on the ladder as a way of saying, well, I'm sorry, we played again. I guess a free win. I want to play someone else. So I do feel pretty guilty. Everything's looking pretty good. We're actually gonna get this pylon down on time. So one thing I like to do is I always kind of like to, as much as possible, rally probes to positions to build stuff. And I'm always looking for ways to rally fresh probes to build things. Right? So far, this build order is pretty rocking. We got this down, perfect timing. We started this chrono boost at perfect timing. We had no supply blocks. This is pretty much looking like a perfect build. We can hit this with a double chrono for safety reasons. everything's getting down in time. It's a little bit late on this pro, but you know, not the end of the world. Yeah, we haven't even, no one's even tried to Bailey bust us. Maybe because they see the stalker in the wall and it's just the existence of that stalker is enough of a deterrent, or you know, maybe the Bailey bust it's just not common at these ELOs. Yeah, there's one other streamer named Apoptosis. Whenever I played him on the ladder, he'd always Bailey bust me. I think I lost like once or twice to it because you know I usually just don't even. I encounter the Bailey bust so rarely I don't even try to defend it. But then I just started metagaming his Bailey busts, and it wasn't too hard after that. Just like I don't even know why. I don't even think Apoptosis knows who I am. Especially when we encounter each other on ladder. I don't think he knows who I am. But like 100%, like 5 games in a row. Maybe it's just like luck of the draw or something. Just 5 games in a row. Just it wasn't like all the same day either, like different days, but we just decided to Bailey bust. Like he can scout me, right? He can scout me all he wants. Like I said, there's a difference between being able to scout me and being able to defend me, right? Oh, we have a little bit too little gas, right? Oh, there we go. Pop. No, in Masters 1, what I would have done, because my gas didn't line up, I still would have chrono boosted this, but I would have went for War Prism than Immortal. Just because you want to hit whatever timing you can. So we got 2, 4, 6. You know, and I do like to kind of hide additional gateways because if he didn't go back up here, he wouldn't have seen that. You know, if he doesn't see like all 8 gateways, so he might not even know if it's like a true all in. You know, yeah, we need to make these pylons. You can start moving out across the map. And like players like this, you know, I don't blame them for calling like bullshit. Like he might, even though he knows this is coming, he still can probably lose to this every single time if he just doesn't know what the response is, right? He doesn't know that he should probably cut workers at least 44, right? Probably 44 cut workers, maybe 40. 30 would still win, but I think it's just a little bit overcommitment, right? Is he making enough army? Right? The main purpose of these guys early on is if you can use force fields to just get any kind of an advantage early on, then it's going to make your push just so much more powerful, right? Because he basically just gave us free roaches. Now we can just go back and check too, like we'll see, like did he even know how to defend, right? So we'll take a look. What is his worker count? 45. So kinda, yeah. Maybe he technically made 1 too many drones. Maybe like 2 too many drones. Does he mark this? So like, yeah, like technically 2 too many drones, but his money is being well spent. He's got a little bit too much gas, right? So why is he going for 4 gases here? He doesn't. He's going 4 gases. He doesn't even have a layer yet. So I said, like, you know, technically he cut at the right amount. He technically made 2 too many drones. Realistically, I don't really know how much gas he needed for Ravagers, if 2 is enough. But he could have potentially made 4 drones too many, and he mined about maybe 200, 150 or so too much gas, right? So if we can imagine about what 200 minerals from the drones plus 150 gas that should have been minerals, we're looking at 500 minerals and 150 gas, right? 500 minerals, 150 gas. At this point in time, he could have had let's see, 1, 2, 4. Could have potentially 6 more roaches and like 2 ravengers or so, right? 6 more roaches, 2 ravengers. We take a look at these army supplies. What we got? Army here. Is that units? Is there an army supply? Control A. Roaches are 2 supply, so 6, 12 more army supply. So he's red. Right now his army supply is actually bigger than mine. But he could have had about 50 army supply at this point in time. Right? 50 army supply. So you easily could have had twice my army supply. So, but, you know, this is the problem when you have like bad build orders, right? Is that, you know, he's got more gas than he needs, right? He doesn't have as many minerals as he ought to have had. He's making like a spore crawler here for no reason. Maybe he thinks there's DTs coming, but you know it's fine. Like let DTs kill this. You have spore crawlers here and here, right? Like if you're afraid, you can probably bring this spore over here, put your army here or something, right? You can even put like, you know, so. And he had that overlay in my base. He saw everything, right? He saw everything. We barely even had to like micro that. You can see win roaches, right? And then, you know, and the only advice he needs is like say, hey, you know, you see kind of like a Twilight Robo all-in, like don't make more than 3 gases or just stay on 2 gases, right? Maybe go for a faster layer to get roach speed. Just pump out if he doesn't have a third, like cover the third bases, have like a lean at every third. If he doesn't take a third, you just make units. Don't make more than 44 drones, right? And make sure your injects are on point. There's like these small things, like I guarantee like he probably doesn't even consider that the reason he lost is because, you know, he took maybe those extra 2 gases too quickly. He made a couple extra too many drones. And, you know, his army just wasn't, because his army just wasn't big enough. It's like me trying to complain. Like if I try to like go 2 gateways and take a fast third, and he just kills me with like mass Zerglings, right? It's like, well, should I be mad that I lost against mass Zerglings when I try to take a third base on 2 gateways and no Stargate? Or should I just accept the fact that, you know, maybe I should have dropped some more gateways, maybe I should open up Oracle. Bigger armies usually win. Let's see, we have Terran again. So hopefully a lot of that kind of makes sense, right? And I can like sympathize with like how hard it can be to look at like these small things that like it can be hard to even like and look at that and be like, is it really like I made like too many drones and that's the reason I lost? And not all the time does it mean like, okay, well, you know, the value of those drones, it's like, oh yeah, you spent 100 minerals in the wrong direction. It's not the 100 minerals that's usually the issue, right? It's the larva. This early in the game, like you don't have a lot of larva. You know, you can't You can't waste larva making stuff you don't need.
Your warriors have engaged the enemy.
Next probe will make the nexus, so we kind of rally that guy. This guy will come make the cybernetics core. Right, pop. And yeah, the races are very asymmetric, so like, it may sound a little bit more ridiculous to say like, oh yeah, you know, 2 drones, 100 minerals, 2 larvae, that's the reason I lost. But you know, it's the mechanics, right? Yeah, it's not always about the cost. Sometimes it's about the capabilities, right? What kind of capabilities have you squandered? A little bit forward. Going too far forward is always risky. Because you know, the more forward your shield battery is, the easier we can hide this guy on the ramp, because you know we can guard this area pretty well. But yeah, more forward it is nice if you have a decent enough army to protect it, because it allows you to engage further away. It's harder for anyone to like push into you. But also, like if they do like a really fast push, it's also harder to defend a shield battery that's further away. So there's always a trade-off, like, you know, where do you want to build this? You know, the further back it's safer. The further forward it's less safe, but gives you the ability to protect a lot easier. Assuming they're not doing anything like super nuts fast. I don't know if I said it, but I think this will probably be the last game today. Might be the last one. Yeah, not quite. Yeah, almost like a 2-hour stream. Like, see, like this. We'll come down here. This Immortal is going to come out in great time. And we can start making our, you know, that's not too bad. I think that's a push you would see it. I would guess, I haven't played in a long time, right? But I would guess that's a push you would see at a higher level too. I think I've seen that in like Upsia's stream or something. Like this kind of like 4 or 6 Marine, medevac, 2 Cyclones. It might have been a little bit smaller than what you might see at like a Grandmaster level, but you know, he's getting there. Right? It's not a bad build. No blame or hate there. Want to keep this on a separate hotkey. Since he was on the map with a decent amount of units, we just want to make sure we have enough units to protect our Immortal before moving across the map. Yeah, because our Immortal is the strength of this build. So, nice thing about this is if he scouts us, he might think we're going for a fast High Templar, which could possibly cause a reaction of him trying to go into Ghost. So he might cut, you know, units to go and drop like a Ghost Academy pretty quickly to potentially like try to hard counter us, and that in and of itself would make him weaker to this kind of an attack. Oh damn, this guy, he already has Ghost. Damn, have we played him before? Is this him trying to like metagame or something? We're just gonna run away a little bit because we're running out of zealots. Zealots is what keep us alive. So that's why. So when you start getting low on zealots and doesn't look like you're gonna just straight up win the fight, just back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't have 8. It's like something feels a little off. And we killed a lot of SCVs, right? So that means he doesn't have the protection to keep making stuff. Or to keep making. We still have max production. He doesn't. You know. So our army is just gonna keep growing. Right? So we can afford to, you know, slow down a little bit. Get some stuff going. Charge up some energy. Can we drop a shield battery here? Or not shield battery, a force field? Alright, well, the Zealots are all dead, so we'll just back up. He's trying to get that. Bring the Zealots forward. Oh, he killed my sentry. That's not cool. Alright, the Zealots are pretty low, so we'll just back up. I just want to make sure we don't lose, like, the Immortals. The Archons we can lose, right? Immortals is the power. Because each Immortal against a light armor unit hits with the power of 2 Stalkers. So it's like a 2 Stalkers focus firing. We can bring this guy over. We can probably just focus fire this a tiny bit. Let's drop these guys here. Oop, I don't know, can't even get him in here. Oh, we're killing the rocks. Yeah. I would say, you know, like, this was probably the most creative attempt at a hard counter. If he, you know, if he knew what I was doing, like if we played before or someone told him about me, or if he was map hacking, something like that, I would say, you know, this is probably the most creative hard counter that's you know, he could have done. Because he would, you know, he had ghosts to kind of knock out the shields. You know, he engaged at a good spot, but his resource collection was, you know, not too bad. Workers, you know, he cut a lot, right? Potentially, but now this graph is not accurate in perception, right? Protoss is meant to have more workers because Terran has mules, right? If you ever hear Terrans complaining that they have less workers and it's unfair, it's a bunch of bullshit, okay? Mules are so powerful. Like if Terran could be on equal workers as Protoss and have mules, you know, that is what is unfair. Because if we look at like resource collection, like as soon as these mules start dropping, it's not even close. Like I have more workers than him, right? And it's about this time, you know, he gets more workers. But like when these mules start falling down, like these income graphs are just insanely favored in Terran, right? So by design, Terran is supposed to have less workers than Protoss and supposed to have less workers than Zerg, right? So the only, like, as a Protoss player or Zerg player, when you look at this graph, all you care about is like, did Terran get more workers than me? If Terran made more workers than me and they have mules, damn, I am fucked. Realistically, you know, if he knew I was one base all inning, he probably wouldn't. He probably shouldn't have this many workers, right? This should have been all army, and he would have won, right? If he would have identified a 2 base all in and cut workers at like 40, maybe 44, you know, but around here, and had more army, yeah, he would have won. I think he had a pretty good army composition. And you can see like his army value is just like, even though like this is an incredibly cost efficient trade he did, like I had this much army supply and I lost all of it. I lost this much army supply, he only lost this much. I still had more army supply than him because I just more production, right? If he would have known I was 2 base all in him, or if he knew and knew how to react to it, we would see less workers here, and we would see this not being as large. Like we'd probably see Terran be like this. Like his army supply would probably be around here, and then this gap would be me going through him. Right at the end of this, he would have, you know, I'd probably be down here. Right, he'd have more army supply than me. Then I would probably punch back up. Then, you know, we'd probably be like going through each other quite a bit. And the way Terran and Broadhouse works is, you know, if I'm not microing well enough, like I'll be spiraling down while he spirals up. But, you know, as we move up the ladder, we'll start seeing more of these where like these small decisions, you know, like accidentally making a couple extra workers and not making more barracks, you know, like your army supply being a little bit too small. These are literally the reasons between winning and losing. And it may not feel like it. It may feel like the reason you lost. Like I just got clapped, right? He had armies collided and he still had 100 army supply left. You're telling me if I had 10 more army supply, it would have been the other way around? Yeah, a lot of times, like 10 army supply, like 5 more hydras, like the way that DPS lasts and stuff, like the units you might have been able to focus fire down, like your ability to like surround and hit from multiple sides, like how you could have taken that fight can literally be the difference, right? Between like my Colossus dying and my Colossus not dying, right? You being able to get on top of me faster, earlier. It could be the difference between me winning the fight with 100 supply and me losing the fight with you having 100 supply, you know. Yeah. So what have we got? This is a EVT. Well, I'm just gonna say fast ghost. Right? It wasn't like a. I'm not gonna say ghost rush. I'll say fast ghost, and we'll just say macro, just to sink in the point that it wasn't, right? And I would recommend for you guys to be as descriptive as you want, right? And then what would be even better is if you guys did use like an Excel sheet or a notepad or whatever, and then you can just like kind of code these up a little bit more, right? Like you can say like, you know, FG or, you know, 1 2 3 4 or something, and then in the notepad or Excel sheet you could just say like, you know, this game on this date or something, right? You know, a little bit more brief description, because, you know, it is really helpful to know like how often do you fight against cannon rushes, how often do you win against cannon rushes, how often do you lose against cannon rushes, you know. And then group all your cannon rush replays together and just like watch them back to back. See like, you know, what are some common things that I can see, you know, at what point in my build order. Like, you know, like let's say it could be like at 1 minute into the game, that's always when the proxy pylon goes down, right? And at 1 minute into the game, or at like, you know, 50 seconds into the game, you know, I do have the ability to scout it, right? And it seems to be the case that all these cannon rushers are always proxying the cannon or the forges in the same spot. So guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go scout that spot. You know, I'm gonna send that, instead of sending the probe straight to his base, I'm gonna send the probe off to the left to scout that spot. And even if, you know, you're like, well, all a cannon rusher needs to do is just not make it there, you can make it anywhere else. It's like, well, if the majority of people are making, you know, the proxy racks or the proxy cannons or the, proxy hatches, whatever it would be, in the same spot, then and you scout that spot, well, guess what? Now you have a better chance at winning the majority of the time you come across a strategy. And who cares about the minority of the time when like they do something different, right? Or they proxy somewhere else and you don't scout it. You've already increased your win percentage by some amount, right? And you've already given yourself a better chance at not losing, right? You don't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be all or nothing kind of situation, right? You don't need like the perfect scouting to scout every possible situation, every possible proxy location, right? And you shouldn't get upset where it's like, well, if I can't scout anything, why should I scout anything, right? Um, so, and then you can figure out a second scouting spot, right? Like, well, everyone always proxies in these two locations, right? Most of the time it's here, so I'll scout there, and the other time it's there, so maybe I'll just go scout that. You might start thinking like, do I really need to scout their base, or like what am I really scouting in the early game, right? What am I really afraid of? Like maybe it's fine that I scout the two places and I can't scout their main, but I can still scout whether or not they take a expansion, right? um like does my build change if I scout 2 gas or 1 gas? Does my build change if I scout an expansion or not? Like if you're not planning to modify your build based on scouting information, then it doesn't matter if you get that scouting information, right? And it only matters what the critical scout for. Like if I'm always doing this build, no matter if they open up 1 gas or 2 gas, I don't need to scout 1 gas or 2 gas. The only thing I probably would want to scout is whether or not they took an expansion, because I might need to cut early to defend a 1 base play than a 2 base play, right? So I could care less what I see in their main base, right? All I care about is the expansion timing. And if I only care about the expansion timing, that means I don't need to get my probe across the map as quickly, which means I can let my probe scout the map a little bit longer, right? That's the way you should think about the game. That's the way you should think about matchups that you have trouble with. And that's how you improve. That's what the pro players do. That's what semi-pro players do. It's what I do, right? Not all the grandmasters except a lot of them are just monkeys, that let other people figure stuff out and they just copy it. Like, I don't know why I'm scouting here, but I'm just gonna do it, right? Like Max Pack seems to forgate against everything, so I'll just do that, right? And so they may not understand it, but this is why, right? These are trying to determine like what is actually important. How often, what's the probability of me coming across a certain strategy, and what is the sacrifice that I make worth it? And if I'm encountering the same person doing the same thing, maybe I just metagame that person, right? And if you had an Excel sheet or a notepad and you're writing down people's names with what strategies they're doing, well, then maybe you can start metagaming them. It's like, like, man, this NACL guy, all he does is 1 base. Well, guess what? He's 1 base me 10 games in a row. Just like I said, like Apoptosis, Baneling bust me 5 games in a row. It wasn't all on the same day. It was like, over the course of like a month or something. Play him like 5 times in a month. But I remembered him. I was like, okay, well, he beat me the first time with the Baneling bust. Baneling bust me a second time. I'm just gonna assume he's gonna Baneling bust me the 3rd time. So I put the stalker on the wall. Here comes the Baneling bust. I hold it. I win. And then I play him again. I'm like, well, he Baneling busts me 3 times in a row. So I'm just gonna assume he's gonna Baneling bust me again, right? And then I beat him again because he did Baneling bust me again, right? There's no sense in like trying to treat, you don't have to necessarily treat everybody blind unless you want to, right? You can just say like, this guy is a 1-trick pony. I'm just gonna, and their trick upsets me, so I'm just gonna, I know they do it. I'm just gonna metagame it, and then we'll do some real practices against another player, right? The next third we'll do a real practice against, right? Like this guy always cannon rushes, so I'm just gonna metagame the cannon rush, maybe a full wall or whatever it may be, right? Maybe I'll defend with my own cannon and try to cannon rush him or something, right? Um, so, but one of the easiest ways to kind of draw these patterns is to, if you really cared, would be to like track them, like kind of like what I'm doing here, like track your wins and losses, maybe give a brief description of what happened, you know, like while you're in between games or while you're eating, you can just take a look and see like what is the meta. Looks like the meta, we got like a mass marine here, we got a couple 3-Raxes, you know, we got some standard widow mine. You know, right now, you know, the meta is all over the place, but looks like, you know, maybe I'm fighting against a lot of 3-Raxes, right? Maybe, you know, we have a couple more 3-Rax. Like the meta's 3-Rax right now. Maybe my build isn't good against 3-Rax. Maybe I'll pause that build, right? I practice it a lot, I'll pause it. Maybe I'll go practice a build that's a little bit stronger against 3-Rax. That'll be my main practice build for a while, right? Until the meta shifts against that build, right? So even though I advocate you should practice only one build until like Masters 1, if that build you're practicing, it's just not working out for the meta, just find a different build and practice that one build. You know, practice a build that is not bad in the current meta. You know, and make sure you have fun. So that's the end of stream advice for tonight. So thank you guys for watching. You guys have a good night. Maybe I'll stream tomorrow. Maybe not. You know, I will if I can, but I won't guarantee it though. But like I said, the only thing I can guarantee is that we'll finish the speed run in Masters 1. If I'm still having fun, we'll go to Grandmaster. So, and just for fun, let's see. What's Grandmaster at right now? Yeah, it's still about the same, about 4790, maybe not 4750. Never look at this to figure out what Grandmaster MMR is. This is a lie. Like this guy here, we probably find like a massive loss streak in his thing, right? Like he'll be demoted tomorrow. Like he had this loss streak today, so his MMR is not the MMR for Grandmaster. Okay, you want to know how to get in the Grandmaster? It's always look at a bottom of contender. The bottom of contender, this is the MMR for Grandmaster, right? Plus or minus like 10 or so. And if you check every day, you'll see like, you know, yesterday it was 4790. Today is 4790. I don't see any 4780s. I know there's 4780s out there. So it's there's a, you know, you probably need 4792 or higher to get Grandmaster. These guys, they all have recently like massive loss streaks, right? This is a, you know, this is not Grandmaster MMR. Doesn't mean they can't get it, right? It just means, you know, if any time a Grandmaster has less MMR than a contender, 100% you're gonna find a loss streak that happened either that day, just because you get demoted every day. Like every day, I think the way it works is like it kicks out the bottom 10 Grandmasters, and then it shuffles them with the contenders, and then it takes like the top 10 contenders or whatever, or the top X contenders, and brings them in. Fox is a pretty cool guy. But, right? You guys have a good night.